This is 7 News.
Tonight, Australia's flood crisis claims a young life. Thousands left homeless. Mark McGowan's promise of a train to the airport. A shock for a BMW owner. His car crushed by a falling branch in Kings Park. And on board with the West Aussies given a rare sight of Antarctica.
Mind-blowing.
From the studios of 7 Perth, Susannah Carr.
Here in Brisbane, floodwaters are expected to rise again tomorrow morning. However, it's not expected to be anything like as bad as what we've seen so far. But exhausted residents and emergency crews face another nervous 24 hours watching and waiting. I'll have the latest from Brisbane on the flood situation as it develops tomorrow. Sue, for the moment, back to you.
Thanks, Rick. Back home, and Opposition leader Mark McGowan is promising a train line to the airport by 2018. It's part of Labor's MetroNet rail plan. Political editor Geof Parry reports.
Trains for planes. Labor says the first part of MetroNet will be a 10.5-kilometre rail link to the airport, costing $731 million.
Perth and Western Australia will choke if this rail line is not built.
The proposed track runs west-east from Bayswater, has 3 stations, including one at the future combined domestic and international terminals, and terminates in Forestfield.
And this is the right priority for Perth and Western Australia.
Labor has also put a price on most of MetroNet, $3.8 billion over 8 years, considerably less than the $6.5 billion Transport Minister Troy Buswell says it will cost.
Everyone knows across Australia that Mr Buswell makes things up.
Well, he will arrive at that figure through Treasury costings.
Because they say he just makes it up.
Oh, well, don't believe Labor.
The Premier was offering up a promise of his own today. If re-elected, 8,500 carers will get a free ride on buses and trains. Mr Barnett says we owe a debt of gratitude to carers.
It will make their life a little bit easier and obviously help them financially.
Under the plan, carers will be able to ride free between 9 in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon on weekdays and all day on weekends and public holidays. Seniors and pensioners already enjoy free public transport. Geof Parry, 7 News.
A branch has fallen from a 74-year-old tree in Kings Park and crushed a luxury vehicle parked below. The car was on Fraser Avenue, the entrance to the park, which is lined by more than 100 of the trees. Kate Smithers reports.
The branch landed directly on the front of the car, a write-off. The windscreen and sunroof crushed. The branches fell metres from the top of a lemon-scented gum. 145 of the trees line Fraser Avenue, the entrance to Kings Park. They're 74 years old. The Botanic Gardens and Parks Authority that looks after the trees says an arborist has checked the fallen branch. The tree itself and all the others haven't been inspected, but the authority says they're regularly maintained. Opposition leader Mark McGowan's car was crushed by a lemon-scented gum branch at Parliament in 2005.
I think there needs to be a program of ensuring that there's a lopping of branches that are perceived to be dangerous, but I don't think we should cut down the trees.
At Parliament, there are now warning signs, but there's no word if Kings Park will do the same. Kate Smithers, 7 News.
First bloke Tim Matheson has apologised for a joke about prostate examinations and Asian women. The gaffe, which has been labelled racist and sexist, was made in front of the Prime Minister, who also criticised his choice of words. Bernard Tomic is in trouble again, losing his licence for allegedly speeding in his yellow Ferrari. Police say Tomic was caught doing 78 kilometres an hour in a 60 zone. He was fined $220 and lost 3 demerit points.
I represent you guys. I play for this country and you pick on me.
I'm not picking on you. Why do you continually get in trouble with the police?
Tomic had been driving on a 1-point good behaviour licence after several traffic offences. Arson squad detectives are hunting a firebug who lit 6 scrub fires in Perth's east overnight. Detectives say the fires were all lit within a 1-hour period. All were within a few kilometres apart between Malaga, Eden Hill and Swan View. Firefighters were on the scene quickly and the fires did little damage, but with 38 degrees forecast for the weekend, police are keen to identify the arsonist as soon as possible. A Bunbury teenager has told how she fought off a vicious dog that attacked her while she was horse riding. Shalise Lang jumped on the bull mastiff and tried to choke it. The 17-year-old needed surgery for a deep wound to her leg. Amelia Broun reports.
Unable to walk, her leg in a bandage, Shalise Lang has been left badly shaken. The 17-year-old was riding her horse Bluey along the Australian foreshore in Bunbury on Sunday when a bull mastiff charged at them.
The dog just jumped up and went straight through his neck and latched on, and my horse was spinning around trying to get it off.
The horse bolted but became stuck in mud. As the dog came for them again, Shalise fought back.
Jumped straight on the dog and held the dogs and held his face away and choked him a bit, and the dog was placid.
The bull mastiff mauled Shalise's calf. She needed skin grafts. Rangers are hunting the dog and its owner.
It could have been a lot worse, and all it would have taken is just one leash on the dog and it wouldn't have happened.
Amelia Broun, 7 News.
While most of us spent Australia Day trying to keep cool, a bunch of West Australians went to see the coldest place on the planet. They were on board a 12-hour joy flight to Antarctica. Rob Scott joined them on their adventure.
A seemingly endless, barren landscape of ice and rock. This is the last great wilderness. The beauty of this frozen continent is breathtaking, and what better way to experience it than from 10,000 feet in the air.
Mind-blowing.
Well, there's a lot of ice. That's the first impression.
From the crammed aisles of the Boeing 747, hundreds of West Australians were transfixed by the unspoilt environment below them.
I sort of don't believe it. It's nothing like I imagined.
It's pretty amazing.
There are 6 sightseeing flights over the Antarctic every year. With the help of Telethon, this was the first to depart from Perth in more than a decade. For the 360 people on board, it was a unique way to spend Australia Day. A 12-hour round trip, it takes 4 hours to reach the polar region, followed by 4 hours of sightseeing and another 4 to return home. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity passengers pay between $1,200 and $7,000 to experience. Was this on your bucket list?
Yes, and I'm getting near the end of my bucket.
Antarctica is almost twice as big as Australia, one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. It's the windiest and coldest, with temperatures dropping to minus 80 degrees Celsius in the winter. At the moment, we're flying over the Antarctic ice shelf. Every year, 4 billion tonnes of ice breaks away and drifts off into the Southern Ocean. And that ice is what we call icebergs. On this flight, passengers caught a glimpse of Casey Station, the Australian research base. And with experts like Professor Patrick Quilty on board, who've spent time at Casey, passengers are given a running commentary throughout the flight.
If you took Australia off the world and threw it into space, that wouldn't have a great impact on the way that the world works. But if you took Antarctica out and threw it out into space, the whole world system would change.
This year, 2 flights operated out of Perth. Between them, they raised more than $70,000 for Telethon. Rob Scott, 7 News.
A former TV star on sex charges heckled outside court. That's next. Plus secret verdict. What really happened to a murdered child beauty queen? And Perth's rocket man a step closer to his dream. A motorcyclist waiting at a pedestrian crossing in China has had an incredibly close call when a truck tipped over in front of him, crushing the front of his bike. It's believed the truck was under the load limit. Both the driver and motorcyclist walked away uninjured. Australia's rocket man Roscoe McGlashan is tonight a little closer to his quest to be the world's fastest man on wheels. And as Chris Young reports, Roscoe was a little fired up about today's test.
It's another step towards a world record. Simplified, this torch igniter is like a pilot light, and when you fit it to a rocket, this is what happens. Roscoe McGlashan plans to test his rocket at Woomera in South Australia later this year. And when he puts it into the car he's building, it'll have around 10 times more horsepower than all of the cars on a Formula One grid. Aussie Invader 5R will be designed to go from 0 to 1,600 kilometres an hour in 20 seconds. If he does that, Roscoe will break the speed of sound and possibly set a new world land speed record. And the torch igniter is crucial in all that. It must light the engine first time.
If we open the throttle and it doesn't light straight away, if the liquid oxygen pools inside this combustion chamber, it can explode.
Where and when his record attempt takes place depends on money. Chris Young, 7 News.
And Baz is here with sport. Collingwood under fire, Baz.
Perth's #1, Australia's #1.